If there's one person on this planet who can send you from completely fine to completely unraveled in under 60 seconds, it's probably someone in your family. And if you've ever wondered why that is, why a stranger could say the exact same thing and it wouldn't affect you at all, this video is going to explain exactly what's happening. Your family doesn't get to you because they're powerful. They get to you because they know you. And more specifically, they know what you were taught to need from them. Your family doesn't have more power over you than anyone else. But what they do have is more access. And access is dangerous when it's in the hands of someone who uses what they know about you as a weapon instead of a gift. Here's what I mean. When you're a child, the people raising you are your entire world. Their approval means safety. Their love means survival. And their disappointment means that something is fundamentally wrong with you. You spend years, sometimes decades, learning exactly what they need from you in order to feel loved and accepted. You learn their moods, you learn their triggers, you learn their silences, what a certain looks means, what a particular tone of voice means. You become an expert in them before you even know who you are. Then you grow up, and they still have access to all of that. They know that if they bring up your past mistakes, you'll shut down. They know that if they compare you to your sibling, you'll immediately start defending yourself. They know that if they cry or act hurt, you'll drop everything to fix it. They know that if they question your choices, you'll feel the need to justify yourself even when you don't owe them an explanation. They're not guessing. They learned you in the same way that you learned them. But here's what makes it different in a toxic or narcissistic family dynamic. They use what they know deliberately, not to connect with you, not to understand you, but to control you, to keep you small, to make sure you never get too comfortable in who you're becoming without their permission. I remember being in a conversation where everything was fine, and then suddenly there was this comment, something about my choices, something disguised as concern, and within seconds I was defending myself, explaining myself, trying to prove something that I shouldn't have needed to prove. And I remember thinking afterwards, how did I end up here again? How did one sentence do all of that? It's because that sentence isn't random. It was precise. It was aimed at the exact place that they knew I was still tender. And that's not an accident. That's a pattern. So what does this actually look like in real life? It looks like a comment about your weight or your appearance that's wrapped up in, I'm just worried about you. It looks like a question about your relationship status or your career that's really a judgment in disguise. It looks like them bringing up something that you did years ago, maybe even decades ago, in the middle of an unrelated conversation, just to remind you of who they think you are. It looks like the silent treatment that lasts long enough to make you apologize for something that you didn't even do. It looks like them playing the victim the moment you try to set a limit, and suddenly you're the one who's being cruel, ungrateful, difficult. And every single one of those moves is targeting something specific, and that's your insecurities, your guilt, your need for their approval, your fear of being the bad one in the family. The people who claim to love you the most should be the last ones using your vulnerabilities against you. When someone consistently aims at where you're tender, it's not love, it's leverage. And they know exactly where to aim because you showed it to them. Over years of trying to be loved by them, exactly where it hurts. And this is where it gets personal, because 2 years ago, I was still in that cycle. Still getting activated by the same comments. Still defending myself to people who had already decided who I was. Still shrinking in conversations because I didn't want to escalate things. Still trying to explain myself clearly enough that they would finally understand. And that's the trap. You keep thinking that if you say it the right way that they'll get it. they won't. Because understanding you was never the goal. And that realization that you're not trying to be understood, you're being managed, that changes everything. That's exactly the kind of moment that the People Pleaser's Emotional Reset Guide was built for. When you've just been activated, when your nervous system is flooded, when you can't think clearly, it walks you through how to slow down, recognize what just happened, and come back to yourself instead of reacting from that wounded place. It's free and the link is in the description. So what do you actually do when your family knows how to get to you? The first thing is to pause. The first thing is to stop trying to explain yourself out of it. The moment you start defending yourself, you've already lost the thread. Because now the conversation is about proving yourself instead of protecting yourself. They ask the loaded question. You don't have to answer it. You're allowed to say nothing. You're allowed to change the subject. You're allowed to leave the room. The second thing is to recognize the move before you react to it. When something hits you and you feel that immediate activation, that spike of guilt or shame or anger, pause before you respond. Ask yourself, what are they actually targeting right now? Once you can name it, you can take away some of the power. You stop reacting to the surface and start seeing what's underneath. The third thing is to stop pretending that you're okay. A lot of people pleasers stay in toxic family interactions longer than they should because they don't want to cause a scene. They smile through it, they laugh it off, they say I'm fine when they're not. And every time you pretend to be okay, you send the message that what just happened was acceptable. But you don't have to perform, you don't have to be rude, but you are allowed to be honest about how you feel. The fourth thing is to accept that some people in your family will never use what they know to love you better. They will use it to keep you manageable. And once you accept that, really accept that, you stop waiting for the conversation where they finally understand. And you stop trying to say it the right way. You stop handing them new information that they can use against you. You get quieter, more boundaried, more selective about what you share and with whom. There is a grief in accepting that someone who was supposed to love you chose to use you instead. Give yourself permission to feel that grief. It's 100% real and it doesn't make you weak for acknowledging it. It makes you honest. And if you've ever been in a family conversation where something hurt you and you completely froze and you couldn't respond, you couldn't defend yourself, you just went blank and spent the next 3 hours replaying it in your head, wishing that you said something. That's called the freeze response, and it's one of the most painful family dynamics that play out for people pleasers. The freeze recover response kit gives you the exact words for those moments, so you're never standing there speechless again, wondering why you couldn't say something. The link is in the description. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. The fact that your family can get to you doesn't mean that you're flawed or you're weak. It means that you love them enough to let them in. It means that you spent years trying to be what they needed. It means you were a child who just wanted to be safe and loved. But you're not that child anymore. And every time you recognize the move, every time you pause instead of react, every time you choose not to defend yourself against someone who was never going to hear you anyway, you are taking your power back. One conversation at a time. If this video resonated with you, the next one you should watch is about why people deliberately misunderstand you. Because the same people who know exactly how to get to you are often the same ones who pretend not to understand you when it's convenient for them. That video is linked right here. Subscribe for weekly videos on healing from toxic family dynamics and people-pleasing patterns. Comment below, what does your family say or do that gets to you every single time? I read every single comment and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye-bye.